What if we told you that the most startling hip-hop love triangle didn't start with Papoose and didn't finish with Captain Easy the Block? Before she ever met Papoose, Remy Ma supposedly dated Fat Joe, according to a now viral interview that has the internet rewatching old Terror Squad videos and switching roles. Claressa Shields, the Gwad herself, blew it all apart while promoting a boxing event. You know she was with Joe before Papoose, right? That isn't news to us. It's news to you all. Hold up. Come again? Was Claressa's straightforward response to the host's question about Remy's background. They hoped we would ignore it by watching backstage footage from 2005, including It's the Zapruder film, analyzing old lyrics, and analyzing body language from award events. But after hearing Claressa's real revelation, you won't view Lean Back in the same manner. It is time to stop pretending that Claressa Shields dropped some arbitrary rumors. Instead, she triggered a ticking time bomb from the industry that had been hidden by hashtags for Black Love and mixtape prison bids years prior. If her claim that Remy Ma was with Fat Joe before Papoose is accurate, then we have been watching the wrong love story all along. The guy known as Fat Joe, Joseph Cartagena, made a vow to keep things together, and he did, but not in the manner that the people at the time thought. Fat Joe was the godfather of Terror Squad, an enterprise rather than a rap group. Night after night, he kept Remy in the studio, encouraging her to go to the front, getting her excited about songs, and giving her what seemed to be the largest brotherly cosign in Bronx history. Sources now assert, however, that it was more than just music. An ex-Terror Squad assistant who worked in their management office from 2002 to 2006 said that Joe and Remy's relationship was complex from the start. Even off camera and while the sessions continued beyond 2 a.m., he referred to her as Ma, while she called him Joey. This is the point at which no one questioned why she was still there. After a show, Joe can be seen hugging Remy in 2005. Archive footage that was unearthed this week. Other than the fact that you hear Joe mutter something that fans had never heard before the camera cuts away, nothing out of the ordinary. This time, we're going to do it correctly. That mean? What were they attempting to correct? How come no one has ever inquired about it? It was more than simply a casual flirtation or professional chemistry. It was personal and emotional, and it had been concealed for a long time. Joe stood to gain a lot by keeping quiet, establishing himself as the hip-hop peacemaker, the entrepreneur, the person who made Big Pun famous, and later standing by Remy when no one else would. Claressa's interview is what transforms this from a rumor into a scandal, so conjure either a scene of guilt or something more romantic. Instead of responding superficially when asked about Remy and Papoose's present tension during a late-night podcast appearance, Claressa grinned as though she knew something. Then she said, "I was with Joe before Papoose," which may not be new to them, but to the rest of us, it's a real-time rewriting of Remy Ma's legacy because she was held down for 6 years by Papoose, her prison-age husband who reintroduced her as a representation of Black love. Insiders are starting to speak out, and he was the cover, not the first or even the beginning. Nobody questioned it at the time, so we thought it was just for safety after a gig in Atlanta in 2004. But the plot takes a different course in this new setting. The Terror Squad's 2003 trip to Puerto Rico, which was advertised as a music retreat, is also being discussed. However, multiple anonymous sources claim that Remy and Joe were seen jet skiing together, going missing for hours at a time, and dining alone at the resort's private beach. However, their affair was not a secret because there are rumors that several crew members voiced worries about the connection and its possible impact on the company. An argument between Fat Joe and an executive was recalled by one source. According to a now deleted tweet from a verified hip-hop writer, voice notes from Fat Joe can be found on an old iPod from Remy's pre-prison days. Since there is usually always a full fire with receipts where there is smoke in hip-hop, the internet is keeping a careful eye on the matter even though no recordings have leaked yet. Reddit threads are awash with frame-by-frame analyses of vintage music videos searching for looks, touches, or anything that appears too personal, and even fans have joined the quest. One of the lean back remixes clips drew in views. They chuckle and whisper something off mic before the beat drops, which is brief and innocent if you didn't know any better. However, as the intensity increases, it becomes evident that the timeline we've been given for so long is false. If Remy Ma and Fat Joe did, in fact, have a romantic relationship, even if it was brief, it suggests that Fat Joe may have buried a personal history for the sake of his reputation, business, and brotherhood. That Papoose may have fallen in love with someone who is still emotionally attached to another man, and that there is a secret prelude to Remy Ma's redemption arc that they did not want to be revealed. Now that it's out, the narrative is only getting started since Claressa's remarks on the podcast were only the beginning. Claressa Shields' casual admission that Remy Ma was with Fat Joe before Papoose revealed the industry's best-kept secret, and she didn't just let a little fact slip out. "Are you serious?" the interviewer asked, blinking and stuttering. Papoose knew it too, but he didn't think it had mattered until now. Claressa didn't even bat an eye, saying, "People in their circle know I haven't got time to lie." At that point, the cameras continued to roll for the next 10 minutes of the now viral interview, which has since been clipped, uploaded, re-uploaded, and stolen again like digital contraband. Asserted that Remy and Joe were especially tense. They would be on set and barely even exchange glances, acting as though they had a past they would rather forget. She added that when Remy and Papoose reaffirmed their vows, Joe was the only person who didn't post anything. But you know what? When Remy Ma and Papoose held a public vow renewal ceremony in 2022, many hurried to verify, and sure enough, Fat Joe shared a photo of sneakers on social media that day. However, Claressa was not done, as she stated that there was a particular instance in 2015, a private party following a bet taping, where she heard Fat Joe pull Remy aside and say, "If you ever want it again, you know where I stand." Claressa didn't say whether Remy responded, but she vowed that Remy didn't leave immediately after hearing that line. "If you ever wanted it again," hit the internet like a bullet. Within 48 hours, phony insiders started to surface. Some were clearly chasing influence, but some fell to the ground. When a user retrieved video from that particular bet event, Joe and Remy were indeed spotted conversing in the corner. Too near the truth to disregard one anonymous remark from a former Terror Squad road manager who stated that Remy had special hotel booking clearance and was solely riding with Joe's SUV in 2004. Inexplicably, he said, only one room was needed at times, yet their rooms were often next door. We both know that rumors spread quickly in this field, but they aren't based on a single allegation. Rather, they are based on a pattern of behavior that, when combined, paints a story that no one wants to hear. Let's discuss how the public has responded. The possibility that the same Remy, who presented herself as a representation of openness and genuineness, had a love triangle encased in layers of denial not only startled fans but also infuriated them. History, while portraying himself as the conduit between artists and, for Papoose, the guy who stood by Remy during her conviction, her release from prison, and public scrutiny, only to be viewed as the second chapter of a book she had started with someone else. Another tweet said, Papoose was doing jail visits while Joe was having flashbacks. Leaning back was never about dancing but rather about dodging questioning, and it didn't help that Fat Joe was extremely silent. No response, no denial, nothing, while Remy Ma, who usually claps back in zero. Everything went dark to seconds later, with no stories or tweets, and then the conspiracy rumors started to spread. According to some theories, Claressa purposefully disclosed the information, possibly as retaliation for a recent disagreement she had with Remy at 8 had an irreversible effect. An old video interview that asked Remy Ma explicitly if she and Fat Joe had ever been romantically connected was among the ones that started to circulate. It was from 2017. She laughed and said, "People are so disrespectful. That's my brother." However, Body language experts noticed that she looked sideways and blinked nervously. Was she trying to hide something, or was she just nervous at being asked such a silly question? There is fresh weight to that question. The audio then emerged 3 days after Claressa's interview went viral, and a mysterious SoundCloud link began to circulate in Discord forums and group conversations. It is approximately 28 seconds long. Because the timing was so perfect and the voice sounded familiar, the internet didn't care. Finally, let's not overlook the visual proof that has been discovered. A 2005 magazine photo from the past shows Joe and Remy sitting hand in hand. In a recent interview with a prominent hip-hop blog, the photographer stated that they appeared to be much more affectionate than simply label mates. More former associates started to speak forward as the walls closed in. "We didn't ask, but everyone knew something was happening," said a DJ who toured with Terror Squad. Joe was, with all of this, it is impossible to avoid the question, was Papoose the diversion or, worse, the rebound? Because if Remy and Joe had a past together and it hadn't ended before she started dating Papoose, what sort of romantic triangle were we unwittingly witnessing for the past 15 years? Bloggers referred to it as the most stunning news since the Cardi-Nicki DM leaks, and fans sought explanations as the tension increased. Black Love-themed Spotify playlists were subtly modified to eliminate Fat Joe and Remy's collaborations. When questioned if she regrets what she said, Claressa isn't letting it go. This wasn't just tea. It was a full-blown identity crisis in hip-hop relationships. That's all just those 3 words: no cleaning, no explanation, and it made everything 10 times worse because, if she hadn't lied, everything we know about Remy Ma, Fat Joe, and Papoose would have been on fire. The narrative we've been given for years, the ride-or-die black love fantasy of Remy Ma and Papoose, just fell apart like a trophy dropped on concrete, if Claressa Shields weren't lying. Everyone has been silent since the interview concluded. And that quiet is a Category 5 emotional cyclone that is louder than any diss track. We'll begin with Papoose. An individual close to his circle claims that the fact that Papoose had been sleeping in the studio and spending less time at the family home raised suspicions about him before Claressa even spoke. After the spark vanished, supporters think they know why. As word of the interview spread, Papoose's attitude shifted. According to the insider, he didn't explode. He just froze. You've never witnessed a man handle heartbreak so effectively. In real time. Then came the short, cryptic, but sharp tweets that read, "The worst pain doesn't come from enemies. She informed me that he was simply family," and in a few hours, that tweet alone garnered 1 million impressions. The storyline abruptly changed, and individuals were absorbed in heartbreaking, incredulous, and treacherous comment sections rather than being merely interested. Another follower said, "This man is getting what he deserves for holding her down." Through prison, Remy Ma also removed all of her Instagram posts on the day that Papoose's tweets went viral. Despite the lack of a statement, nothing was lost, including her most recent freestyle post, birthday tributes, family photos, and black love images. Fans questioned whether this was a self-promotional stunt, a digital representation of a complete identity breakdown, or something else. But it wasn't just Remy who went dark. Fat Joe, Mr. I Got Nothing to Hide, also went silent. His media team stopped talking, and that 2020 to sneaker post he posted on the day Remy and Papoose renewed their vows was removed and now subtly scrubbed as if someone had gone back in time and started rewriting receipts. Retrieving past Terror Squad reunion specials, award shows, and interviews. People are trembling over one clip in particular. In a 2016 interview, Papoose is sitting next to Remy, celebrating her return, when Fat Joe interrupts and says, "You're lucky I let her go." Everyone laughed, including Papoose, but now that line is being scrutinized like an autopsy. Was it a joke, or was Joe inadvertently confirming what Claressa just disclosed? A new anonymous leak purportedly showed a screenshot of a 2000 for text message from Fat Joe to Remy that said, "I hate seeing you around these clowns. You know I'm the only one that ever understood you." The celebrity gossip page has not confirmed the authenticity of the leak. However, whispers of a huge public relations disaster have emerged behind closed doors. Speaking anonymously, a record label representative stated, "They're panicking, brands are freezing deals, streaming platforms are watching engagement numbers, and everyone's trying to figure out what Remy's next move is, if there even is one." Speaking of next moves, the most bizarre development of all is that an unknown individual leaked audio that was allegedly recorded just days before Claressa's interview. According to the audio, a lady believed to be Claressa is heard telling another person, "She was supposed to come clean. She said she would. I just beat her to it." If this is true, Remy was aware that the truth was out, and perhaps even how come she didn't tell it herself, as she had agreed to do. Some say she was trying to protect her son, while others say he has been consulting a lawyer to manage his public image before a divorce, especially if further information comes to light. Think back to the ancient iPod we discussed in part 1, which some people said had voice notes from Fat Joe on it. Now that the renowned hip-hop documentarian has that device, he has already reached out to streaming services about producing a limited series called Before Black Love, which promises voice recordings, old emails, never-before-seen images, and even there is a split among fans, with some stating, "It was before Papoose let it go," and others are calling for transparency. They want a statement, an explanation, and closure, but what would that even look like? A press conference, a dual interview, a documentary bombshell, whatever it is, it better come soon because the pressure is mounting. Fans will continue to remember, and Claressa will continue to tweet, despite the blogs. Last night, she posted a mysterious line that was never about power but rather about clarity. Now, we wonder, did Fat Joe and Remy Ma have a secret relationship that lasted longer than we thought? Was Papoose just the final chapter in a book Joe started writing? What does Remy say when the microphone finally comes back around? Or is this just old history coming to light? Or is this the truth that has been buried under plaques, loyalty slogans, and red carpet smiles? Because if Papoose was caught off guard after holding her down for years, then we're not just witnessing a scandal, but the breakdown of hip-hop's most trusted love story. If you have any thoughts, please share them in the comments section below. Was Papoose just a backup plan? Did Joe cross a line? Or was Remy stuck between the only two men who ever truly knew her? We're only one leak away from everything changing again, and you'll hear it here first, because in a world full of cover-ups, receipts speak louder than reputations. Stay locked in this story, which is not even close to being over. It's a fairy tale while the real love triangle played out backstage.